So in Act 1, when you're running around the swamp, you'll find these baskets full of poisoned apples left by Auntie Ethel. On one particular day, I got really curious about what would happen if I were to eat one of these apples. So I chose one of my companions to become my test subject, which was Astarion. Don't ask why I chose him. So after saving my game, I got him to eat it, and I got this condition called upset stomach that lasted for 10 moves. After waiting around a bit, I thought to check the description of the condition, and this is what it says. Something was off about the apple, and the condition was classified as a poison. Once the condition wore off, I got a new one called feverish. That one lasted for 25 moves instead of 10. When I checked the description, it said increasingly feverish, disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws using strength. And instead of being a poison effect, it's now a disease. Now, in my game, Astarion has 0 strength to his name. So aside from him feeling like absolute shit, this wouldn't really hinder him too much. The next condition after feverish was called filth fever, which does not sound pleasant. This one, just like feverish, lasted for 25 moves. And when I read the description, it said crushed by fever, disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks and saving throws using strength. So again, aside from feeling like crap, this wouldn't really hinder him too much. But before we could see the ending of this very interesting experiment, Astarion managed to get a saving throw against Last Effect. When I was filming this, I wasn't aware that he made a saving throw. So after being a little disappointed about the outcome, I saved the footage to edit for later, and it was just now as I'm editing the video that I realized he had a saving throw. And since I don't have access to those save files, I decided to make an entirely new character to conduct this experiment again. I'll show you a little clip of how that went.
Keep dangerous company.
Two 2,000 years later.
Fucking finally. God damn it.
You're alive.
My name's Astarion.
With your very body, you provide your perfectly happy.
A hand?
As you can see, it was quite the adventure, but I did end up back at the swamp and I resumed my experimentation. Now, I was originally going to use a Luna for this experiment, but after like 4 saving throws, I moved on to a Starhand, but he also kept making saving throws, so I eventually ended up on Shadowheart. I made a save before the condition ended, just in case she made a saving throw, which she did, but the second time, she didn't. And thus, she became my new guinea pig. I got through the first and second condition somewhat easily. I had to reload a few times, but it was when I got to the very last one, Filth Fever, when I was started having a lot of issues. Shadowheart was just making saving throw after saving throw after saving throw. It got to the point where I just ended up Googling what happened, and, well... And to make matters even worse, on my 6th reload, she ended up failing the saving throw just as I was reading the effects. So, the very first video I made, when Astarion made that saving throw, it was technically the end of the conditions. Like, Filth Fever was the very last condition he could get, but since he made the saving throw, I thought there was more. As it turns out, there wasn't, and I wasted about an hour and a half filming the second part of this video. So yeah, I'm gonna go sit down and rethink my life, but I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. A lot of work went into it, a lot of unnecessary work. Okay, yeah, that's the end. See it, I don't know, what the fuck.